it. So that's the irony that today is Rosh Chodesh. It is the first day of the month. And this month is Adar, and it says, Mishenichnas Adar marbe b'simcha. When we enter the month of Adar, we add in our happiness. So this is a month of happiness. This is a month where we want to serve Hashem with joy. And it says, Simcha pirates geder. Simcha breaks through all boundaries. Like someone comes and they're strong and they want to fight. They're, whether it's a debate with just words or whether it's a physical fight. And one person is stronger than the other person. The stronger one will actually not win the war, win the debate, win the fight, if he is sad. If he's happy, he has way more strength. So if you have one person who is really mightier and, he's stronger, whether it's a debate and it's in knowledge and everything he knows, or whether it's just the idea of a physical fight, if he's sad, then he's weighed down and he actually can't move as fast. Like when someone's depressed, they can't, move as fast. They can't go as fast. Simply as that. But if someone is happy, it says they are light. Like it says about Jacob when he was traveling, it says, Vayisa Raglav, he lifted his feet. He was light because, when you're happy, you're light and you're able to move much faster. So this month gives us the strength. When we have something that happens at a certain time, like let's say it's the holiday of Rosh Hashanah, or it's the holiday of Passover, of Pesach. So Pesach is freedom. And that idea of freedom, we get the power to free ourselves from all our limitations the whole year. We get this power on Pesach, and it gives us strength for the rest of the year. So right now we have, this idea of simcha, of happiness, and it extends through the year. In this month, we have the holiday of Purim, which we'll talk about later, not today, meaning when it's closer to Purim. But we have the holiday of Purim, where Purim is a tremendous joy for the Jewish people because they were supposed to be killed by Haman, and then they were saved. So we come into this month where we realize we tap in. What does happy mean? Happy does not just mean like, there's people who are like, everything is great and all bubbly and just smiley. Sometimes that's like a hot air balloon. If you give one little prick, there goes the whole thing, right? Or they're happy because I just got a new dress and I have a fancy car and I just want to. That could bring a person to happiness. And I'm not saying that those things don't bring joy, but that's not real inner happiness. Real inner happiness is not necessarily a fast-moving, bubbly, smiley joy. It's an inner peace. It's a sense of like comfort. It's a sense of I'm confident in what I'm doing. I'm so settled and happy in what I'm doing. That's what real joy, real simcha is. So as Jewish people, where does our real happiness come from? It comes from connecting to Hashem. And joy is very connected with faith, bitachon, we call it. Why is it very connected to faith? Because when I am very happy about something, then I have faith that God is doing the correct thing. When I get angry and I'm not happy and I'm like, well, why did this ever happen to me? It's so unfair. That's coming from a place that I don't really believe that God knows what he's doing, and I feel like I don't deserve it. Why is God doing this to me? But if I have faith that God sees a bigger picture, then I am happy, because then I'm like, oh, I know that everything is here is for a reason. And I know that God has a plan, and I know that it's going to be good. And I could feel settled and comfortable. Now, what really makes us happy, like we said, being connected to Hashem and having a higher purpose. Like I said, when you get that, people got a lot of materialistic things and they're so excited and they get this, it could be like a hot air balloon. It doesn't really mean that you're happy. And you get this car and then you're like, that's not exciting anymore. I need the next car. And then after, someone gets the, like, oh, a brand new Lexus. Wow, that's amazing. And then, Lexus. All right, now when you get the Bentley, and then when he gets it, and so it goes. And with materialistic things, we're never satisfied. As Jews, we're obviously supposed to be satisfied. It says for physical things, we're supposed to look at people who have less than us and say, wow, I'm so lucky. Look what I have. I have a house, a place to live in, even though it's small, better than someone else. And for spiritual, we're supposed to look at people that are greater than us, and we're supposed to try to strive to be like that. So, of course, connecting to Hashem and having a deeper purpose, that gives you real happiness. Like, I get this dress, and then I want another dress, and then I need the shoes to match it. And I never really feel fully fulfilled. Of course, it's important to, buy some clothing at times and, to feel like you're living in a neat, clean environment, etc. Those things are important. But that's not going to make you happy. That's not going to be the end of it all. That's going to be like nice things to enhance true happiness. True happiness really comes from having a higher purpose. When I feel like I'm fulfilling something, that's when I'm really happy. Inside, I feel happy. So in Yiddishkeit, in Judaism, we give. And you think, the more I give, the more I feel like I'm not getting for myself. But that's not the way it works. The more we give, the more we feel happy. Like marriage is to make someone happy, to connect with somebody. What is the root word of love? Or it doesn't even need to be with the spouse. Love, it really is for anything. Love of a child, love, even love of a friend, love of Hashem, certainly. What is the root word? Ahava is the Hebrew word for love. And in that in its root, we have hav, which means to give. So in love is giving. When you give to somebody else, then you feel loved. When it's all about, what am I going to get? What am I going to get? You're never going to be happy. You're not going to be happy because you're always going to be like, I should have got more. They should have said this. She should have done that. She should have showed up to me. Why did my daughter come when I was here? How come my mother only called me this and that? But when you start giving, then you feel, and that could be in a close relationship. And that could also just be like volunteering, giving of your time, helping someone less than you. And when we give, that's really the sense of when we feel happy. So when we connect to Hashem and we have a higher purpose, and when we are giving people, that brings about real, true happiness. So sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's not. And sometimes when people feel down, it's really hard because depression is like a downward, it's a downward movement. It's people go into themselves and it's hard to reach out. But sometimes when someone feels depressed and, not happy, they just need to take that plunge. They just need to say, you know what? I'm going to do something spiritual. I'm going to connect to a higher purpose, and I won't be limited to the little me. And then I'll really release myself from this, limitation, and I will feel connected to Hashem. And then I'll be happy because me, as little teeny me, I'm so limited. But me, as connected to a higher purpose, then I'm no longer limited. I've got this whole bigger picture, this whole higher purpose. So that's one thing that really could help us with being happy in this month of Adar, in this month of happiness. And again, sometimes you're depressed until you get out of it, and it's so inward, it's so downward. How am I going to? Don't think so much. Just go out and help somebody else. And once you give, it brightens you up and you start feeling happy. And then it's, unbelievable. So in this month, I bless everybody, including myself, that we should have real, true inner happiness, where we're able to feel connected, where we're able to not only feel connected, but we're able to be givers. It's always better to be on the giving side. It's always, always better to be the giver. Sometimes we feel like, oh, this person's asking so much. And then just stop for a second and think, do I want to be the recipient who needs whatever it is, the money, the time, the emotional support, or do I want to be the giver? And automatically it says in Torah, Kemayim apanim el apanim. Like the face, like the water, the face reflects back. Just like when you look in water, it's a mirror. And what does it reflect back? My picture. And if I put in a frown, what does it reflect back? My picture, a frown. So the way I treat someone is the way they're going to treat me back. Like I once heard this little cute story. There was somebody and he says, he went in an elevator and he was like, every time I go in there, there's a man who's like, looks angry. And I'm so scared every time I go in. And so they said, really? There's a man in there? I didn't see anyone else go in the elevator. What are you talking about? And they come in and what do they see? It's a mirror. The elevator is a mirror. So every time he looked in the mirror, he saw an angry face and it just got him more angry. And then he said, the man's getting angrier because he put on an angrier face. So the mirror was showing back an even angrier face and it just kept him going. And that's the way it is with others, that if I act happy and I'm positive with another person, they're going to be positive back to me. And guess what? This also applies to yourself. If I am positive and happy within myself, it's a vicious cycle. Then, I'm in a good mood and now like I did something fun. So now it just reflects back happiness. They say that being happy is 90% attitude and only 10% circumstantial. Only 10% circumstantial. So 10% is your circumstances, how much money I have, where I live, the people around me, my health, etc., my job. 90%, the majority, is my attitude, what I want to make of it. And you'll see that all the time. You'll see that there's two people and they go through the very, very same experience. They could be at the very same experience. Two people are in synagogue. One person feels so emotionally connected, so connected to God, and the other person with his attitude that, why am I here? And look at the person next to me talking, and look at the rabbi, he's not even as holy as I thought, and whatever it may be. And he's not having a spiritual experience. And the same thing, you could both go shopping. Two people could go to a wedding and have they're at the same wedding. They're sitting at the same table. They're having a completely different experience. In my head, I could be somewhere else thinking about all my problems. Or even just there, I'm not noticing the gorgeous flowers. I'm not tuning in to all the beautiful music. I don't know them so well, so I'm not so happy and excited. The more tuned in we are, the more we get out of something. So always remember that we all have troubles. We all have things that happen to us that we're really not happy about. And there's a time and place for pain. And no one's saying we should be in denial. And that's what we're saying in the beginning. It's not just, I'm happy, I'm so excited. It's not about that. It's not an air balloon that you could just pop. It's coming from within. And that's not something that someone else could just pop for you. So it's not that we're allowed to feel pain, right? We hear some bad news. Someone we love is sick. God forbid. Someone we love is going through a bad divorce, whatever it may be, right? We're not like, well, let's just be happy. Who cares? No, that's not the way we go. First of all, when it comes to someone else, you always just plead to God that they should be taken out of their pain. When it comes to yourself, you're allowed to look inward, and you're supposed to say, you know what? If I'm having trouble with my voice, maybe I'm not using my voice as good as I should. Maybe I need to say more blessings. Maybe I need to talk a little less negative about things. So then you could be introspective and look inside, you know? Oh, I'm having a problem with my foot? Oh, maybe I need to go out and help others more, whatever it may be. But never about another person. We never judge when it comes to another person. We only judge ourselves. And so when I'm looking inward at myself, then I'm able to become a better person. And that's what we're saying. Happiness is not just about, there's no pain. Oh yeah, they're not, oh, that person's sick. Oh yay, everything's great. Who cares? No, we don't do that. We can feel their pain, but we could try to think of ways to help them. We don't fluff. We don't just say, oh, I'm a bad person. I have a temper, but who cares? I'm just going to go around being that. Oh, let me look inside. Let me come to a more peaceful place. Let me figure out how to not be angry. Let me think about, everything comes from Hashem. So really, I shouldn't be angry. God is giving me this test so that I could become a stronger, better person. So again, happiness is not fluff and fake and just putting on a smile. I mean, though sometimes it is good to just put on a smile. They say, fake it till you make it. You know, like if you're in a bad mood, like we said, just put on a smile, go out, and most likely you will feel better, because when you go too much into yourself, you want to be introspective as to what I could change and how I could become a better person. But when you just go into yourself for sulking and just, just moaning and groaning and, everything I do is no good, that's your evil inclination. You're a bad person. You did that wrong. Oh, you did the other thing wrong. So we say, what could I do that's good? That is your evil inclination trying to say, you're not a good person. So we have to talk to ourselves, self-talk, and say, you're such a good person. Let me write down 3 good things that I did today. Let me write down 3 things I could be grateful for. Let me focus on the positive and how amazing it could be changed. So again, happy is not clowny and just, running away from your problems. It's focusing on the good and having a higher purpose and giving to others and becoming a more settled, happy person inside. So now we're going to move on to this week's Torah portion. And in this week's Torah portion, last week and 2 weeks ago, we went through the story. 2 weeks ago, the giving of the Torah. God gave the 10 Commandments. And last week, we spoke about how Hashem also gave logical mitzvahs, and how even if they're logical, we do them. Our foundation of doing all of the logical mitzvahs is because it's from God. Our foundation is because God said so, because that's God's will. So why don't I steal? Not just because it's moral, because God said. And how it's so important to have all the laws made by God, divinely created as opposed to humanly. Because when it comes to human creation and my brain comes up with it, my brain can play a lot of tricks on me, and it's a very slippery slope. People could then come to justifying anything we do, right? I spoke negative about someone. I said, but it's so important because now she's going to be a better person. Yeah, because I gossiped about her. We like to justify. And that's what people do. And so it's very important that, and in today's society, we could see people make up their own laws of what things are correct and what's not correct. And then it just slides a little here and a little there and a little there. And before you know it, our morals are from here to there. They've just dropped completely. So as the Torah recounts later, the Jews were convinced that, Moshe was not going to come down, and they ended up sinning with the golden calf. That's in a different portion. We're going to do it later on. But so basically, after they served the golden calf, God removed himself from the Jewish people, and, all their plans changed of when they were going to go into Israel, etc. And in order to reinstate his presence, God commanded them to construct a temporary tabernacle. And just to explain, the Torah is not necessarily in order. So therefore, we're talking about the tabernacle here, even though it didn't necessarily happen here at this point, right after the Jews got the Torah. Right after the Jews got the Torah is when they sinned with the golden calf. But this is put here, even though it happened later. So, God talks about donating and contributing and giving to the tabernacle. So we learned something very important from this week's Torah portion. And similar to what we said before, because we said what makes a person happy, one of the things is giving. And it can even be giving to yourself, by the way. You give to others, but even instead of waiting for other people to give to you, you give to yourself. You say, I'm going to learn something. I'm going to accomplish something. That's called giving to yourself. So we learn that in Judaism, it's a very big thing to donate, to give tzedakah, to give charity. That this is something that is very important. And it doesn't have to be a lot. Someone gives $1. If a millionaire gives $500 and a very simple person who only has $1,000 in their bank account gives $10, it's worth more, the person that gave $10. So it's not about how much you give. And giving doesn't even have to be with money. Donating your time, donating your attitude, right? Just calling up and saying hello to someone, all of this is giving, okay? So the Torah is teaching us, the Torah portion is called Terumah. Terumah means to donate, to give. That is such an important element as Jewish people, that we are givers. We always want to be givers. We want to be influencers. And so when God gave the Torah, he was basically telling us, as we discussed last week, that we're supposed to combine the physical and spiritual worlds. We're supposed to make this physical, dark, materialistic, immoral world into a home for God. A home is somewhere where your essence can come out, where you feel comfortable. So what's a home for God? A place of spirituality, a place of holiness. So Hashem wanted a place that could be his home on an ongoing basis. And he made the essence he made his essence part of every Jew's soul. And therefore, we are the ones who have the ability to make this world into a godly place because we have God's essence in us. And this is really what the tabernacle and the Holy Temple is all about. The tabernacle and the Holy Temple is really all about bringing godliness into this physical world. And the giving of the Torah that we spoke about 2 weeks ago was wonderful. That was beautiful. That was amazing. But it was a temporary state. It was just like God came. The Jewish people couldn't even handle it. After the first 2 commandments, their souls left their bodies. God had to revive them, bring them back. And it was totally aflame. And they couldn't touch Mount Sinai. It was too holy for them. So, and afterwards, that's it. Mount Sinai was totally aflame. They couldn't touch it. And the mountain afterwards returned back to its original state. And they weren't able to sustain it. So after the Torah was given, what did they need to do to make it something that could be everlasting? God came on Mount Sinai in flames. He came in Mount Sinai in such an amazing, wonderful appearance. But how does it affect me personally? I need to contribute. That's the idea. If I want to be affected by the Torah learning, I go to that wedding like we were speaking before, and I'm there, and everybody's there, and there's happiness, and there's music, and there's flowers, and there's good food. Not necessarily will I be able to take it in. If I want it to become part of me, I need to give. I need to put myself in there. So after the Torah be given, the Jewish people needed to make their own contribution. They need to give something of yourself. Sometimes they say like, a person can't afford something. So someone sponsors it, here's, okay, I'm going to sponsor it. Don't worry, here's $1,000. But sometimes they say, I want you to pay $5, $10, something. Because if you invest in it and you give, like a class that you paid for, you're going to be more certain to show up because you invested in it. So that's the idea, that if we want it to affect us in a permanent way, we have to give. We have to give a little bit. So the Jewish people in this Torah portion, they contribute, to the tabernacle, to have God's presence in this world. It says, "V'asuli mikdash v'shachanti b'socha." I will make a holy tabernacle. Sorry. They shall make a holy tabernacle, and I, Hashem, is going to dwell in it. And this is how Hashem has, as we were talking before, a home, a place where his essence could reside in this physical world. Okay? And God didn't say, I'm going to dwell in it. He said, I'm going to dwell in them. Because God is going to dwell in us, in the Jewish people, in each and every one of us. God dwells with us. And how do we get God to dwell within us? How do we make my own tabernacle for myself? By a donation. By setting aside something of my possession. It could be money. It doesn't have to be. It could be my time. It could be my talent. Let's just say I don't. Let's just say I had a gorgeous voice and I was able to sing beautifully. And I would do that to go cheer up some older women in a nursing home who would be so delighted, right, if they heard a beautiful voice singing. And that is me giving a donation. That is me causing Hashem to rest in me. If I am in a Torah class and I learn some Torah and I share it with my friends, one of the concepts, that is me giving a donation. If I'm more patient with someone in my family who's getting on my nerves, that is me giving a donation. So we can go on and on and on forever, right? Being patient, being kind, giving of my time. All of this is donating. And it's very interesting because on the one hand, it seems like a paradox. A donation, I'm giving something away. Now I don't have it for myself, right? This time could have been for me and I'm giving it away. But we're simultaneously asserting that it's ours. Because the fact that I can give it away means that I own it. So on the one hand, it's a paradox because I'm giving it away and it's not mine. But the fact that I was able to give it away means that it was mine and I owned it. Because if I didn't really believe that this voice is mine, then I couldn't use it to sing for others. I couldn't do that. So that's a real donation. And that's the point. When I'm confident that I have what to share, then I'm good to share because I know I own it. I know I have. But I also have to think to myself. So we're basically admitting that we're less worthy. I'm admitting I'm less worthy of my wealth, whether it's my time, my talents, or actual money, than the individual which I'm contributing it to. I'm like, why should I keep all that to myself? I could just stay home and sing to myself. But I'm less worthy of it. I think those people, in the nursing home are more worthy. Or I have this money, but you know what? I'll be okay if I buy one less thing. I knew a lady, she was a Holocaust survivor, really wonderful person. She was a dear friend. She passed away quite a few years ago. And she told me that later on in life, she had she was a Holocaust survivor. Her child passed away in the Holocaust. Very sad. And then she got remarried, and she had a child. Thank God. And that husband passed away, and she married another man. He was much wealthier, and so she was living like a different kind of life, than she was used to before. And she would go to the store, and she was able to afford. And she said if she was about to buy a dress, that was, let's just say, $300. And then she ended up choosing the dress. She considered buying the $300 dress, but then she ended up buying the $200 dress. She would take that $100 and she would give it to charity. Because she said, no, I don't need that. I could be just as fine with the $200 one. And you know what? Better, I should use that and I should give that away. So she really lived this, what I'm telling now. Her name was Edith. She was a wonderful person. And Edith, she said, that other person is more worthy. Why should I have a $300 dress? I'll be just as fine with the $200 dress. And then that person is more worthy of the $100 than I am. I don't really need this $100. So our own private life is not the end all and be all. When everything connected to the beginning of class, when we're talking about true happiness, when everything is about me, what am I going to get? And what am I going to get? And how much more can I get? And if it's all about me, I'm never going to be happy. I'll always want more. But when I start giving to other people, then that's where real happiness comes in. So that's the difference. The giving of the Torah, everything was silent. It says not a bird chirped. Everyone's just in awe. But it was like they were subdued. That was the giving of the Torah. That affected them like they were nullified. But then comes the second step where now we're contributing and we're helping in building the tabernacle. And that is a permanent, that's making a permanent resident for God. That's making a permanent home for Hashem. Because once we contribute and we're being for our own, that makes it enduring. If I just show up somewhere and I didn't do anything to be there, it's not going to affect me that much. But if I contributed, I helped create it, then it's real, and I have a much more, internal experience. Now, there's a lot of different vessels that were in the tabernacle and also in the holy temple in the Beis Hamikdash. And the holy temple it's not in the Torah portions because it was only created afterwards in the time of King Solomon. But anyways, the vessels are the same. And I'll talk about one vessel because we don't have that much more time today. But one of the vessels that's like my favorite they all have different points, but one of my favorite takeaways is the menorah, the candelabra that was in the holy temple. So the candelabra it gave off light. And that is our job. No matter who you are, no matter what you are, if you are a Jew, You are there to give off light. How do we give off light? Just by being an example. My grandmother, may she rest in peace, she would always say, teaching by example is not the best way to teach. It's the only way to teach. So that's it. How do we give off light? When you're an example, when you really live what you're doing. When you're kind, you're an example to other people to be kind. When you're generous, you're an example for them to also give and be generous. Like if one person volunteers, other people want to volunteer and join. And what do we see about the menorah? We see about the menorah that it had to be made from one entity. In other words, you couldn't solder together. There were 7 branches. You can't take 7 branches, solder them together to be one. You had to start out, like imagine one big clump of clay, and then you had to, which is much harder, and then you had to make it into 1 branch, 2 branch, 3, and that's much harder. But that's what God said. The 7 branches symbolize the 7 different types of people. There's 7 general character traits that people have. Kind or severe, all different, we don't have time to go into that now. But basically, what's the point? The point is that we're all going to serve God with our different ways. Each one of the menorah, right? Each one goes in a different direction. Each one is going straight up, one's going a little to the right, one's going a little to the left. Yeah, that's how we are. Everybody's different. She's going to the left, she's going to the right, she's going on top. But what do? We all serve Hashem. One is serving God through art. One is serving Hashem through music. One is serving Hashem through writing. One is serving Hashem through just action. Everybody serves Hashem in a different way. But what's our root? We said it also come from one. What's the one? The stem on the bottom is one. Picture a menorah, right? I mean, not those flat, straight ones, but the one in the holy temple. Oh, I should have brought a picture. I'm sorry, I didn't realize. Thinking in my head, it's so obvious. But I think I have a picture here. I'll just show the picture so you can see. Could you see? What's that? One second. You see the menorah? I don't know. It's not coming out so clear. You see the shape? So this is one on the bottom.
Yes.
And then it goes up into 7 different branches. I wonder why it's. Oh, because. Oh, here. Now you see it, right? Okay, you saw it for like a second. So the base has to be, it's one. We serve God. We're part of Hashem. You can't make up your own ways. We always have it rooted and sourced in Torah, in Hashem, in divinity, in godliness. But then everybody goes in their own direction and serves Hashem in their own way. And when they serve God, you shed light. You give off light. And then that light, guess what? You taught one person, and then they go teach another person. And then that person teaches, and it just goes on forever. And one action that you do. So when you shed light, it's not only the direct light you give, but that light continues on and on. So may we all have the strength to be happy, to have inner happiness, and to be shining lights to all those around us. Thank you so much for joining. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Leah. Hi, Andrea. It was a great
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining. All the best.